and leave it muted until we enter our breakout rooms or question and answer session to cut down on background noise. As you enter, please introduce yourself in the chat. We love to hear where everyone is from and hopefully make some connections for people. Please do not forget to fill out the attendance form. In order to get credit, we ask that everyone attend 5 of our 8 weekly sessions. And so this will allow you to get your certificate of participation. The link is in the chat, and you can also use the QR code here. We are so excited about today's presentation because we have Judi Freeman of Boston Public Schools to talk about creating virtual exchanges in global contexts. The first thing we'll do is we'll go through some of our announcements, and we'll also repeat these at the end. And then we're going to have a wonderful presentation by Judi. We're going to have time for question and answers by Judi. And we'll have some breakout rooms, and Armin will talk a little bit about a Padlet reflection that you can do based off of our talk today. So to go through the announcements, again, please don't forget to fill out the attendance form when you get on. Please mute your mic. If you get disconnected, don't forget that the event is live streaming on our Facebook page. Also, this week is a little bit unique because we have a couple of different speakers. So you are also welcome to join us on Tuesday, April 13th, coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard for a presentation with the founders of AM English. They'll be talking a little bit about their platform, the services that it provides, and how you can actually have access to those resources free of cost for the next year. We'll also be announcing more details about the lesson plan challenge and prizes on Facebook. We had talked a little bit last week about free subscriptions that we have to give away to ed tech platforms, and we wanted to take some time to hear from you about what platforms you're most interested in, so that way we can secure those subscriptions and get them out to you for your wonderful participation and collaboration. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Armin to introduce our guest speaker for today.
Wonderful. Should we do a little bit of movement and breathing before we jump into it?
Sure.
Just to keep the routine. Maybe I will introduce Judi in a moment. Okay, so we can all see each other. We're happy that you're all with us. And I thought of just showing you a very simple but relaxing technique for getting your mind calmer. I don't know about all of you, but sometimes my mind, actually like almost all the time, my mind is not calm. So anything that we can do to try to get ourselves more present is important. Oops, let me see if I can get that. So here's what it is. It's called the hello breath or ocean breath. And we make the sound of an ocean. So if everyone could put their hand up like so, very good, facing their face, and you make the sound as if you had a mirror. Very good. So that is the ocean breath sound. Try it again. Similar to when you have a mirror, you want to see clearer, so you do that. And why are we doing that? I'll show you the next part, but we have a vein. It's called the vagus vein. And it is a very important vein. It connects to the rest of our body and it keeps us calm when we give it exercise. And we can give it exercise by breathing in this way. So we're going to try just like 5 or 10 of them together. But when we do it, we'll have our mouth closed. So it'll sound like this. So just by checking in, by a thumbs up, are you hearing a little sound as you breathe in and out? It's not terribly difficult, but it's definitely helpful, but we'll experiment and see. So if you can all just relax your hands, close your eyes, we'll take a big breath in, like this ocean breath. And then we'll take a breath out. Ocean breath, very good. It's 1, breathing in, ocean breath. And breathing out, ocean breath. And we can control our breathing. We can control our thinking a little better. Breathing in, ocean. Out, ocean. In, ocean. It's the 4th one. Breathing out, ocean breath. Relaxing your whole body. We'll do a last one. Breathing in, ocean breath. Your belly gets bigger, and then breathing out, ocean breath. Okay. You can breathe normally. Rub your hands on your hands. Put them over your eyes. And we're lucky that Judi is with us today. If you want to just share for 10 seconds in the chat box, do you notice any difference in your mind or your body after doing the ocean breath? Sometimes for me, it helps me feel a little calmer. What it actually is doing is you're releasing good hormones, happiness hormones, serotonin, or all these great things that we have access to inside of our bodies and in our minds. But through our breathing, we kind of get lost, at least for me, in a certain way of breathing, right? I'm nervous breathing. What am I going to do next? What is this going to be? What is it? Or I'm depressed breathing. I can't breathe. It's so tight, right? So what we're doing when we're changing and transforming our breathing is we're transforming our feelings. So I'm happy that you experimented with it. And we're very lucky today because Judi is going to be sharing with us. She's a wonderful teacher of the Boston Lab School. I'm just going to mute people. And I actually met her through another colleague of ours from Myanmar. And she's doing wonderful exchanges with teachers and students around the world. And what we want to do is be inspired by Judi to maybe do that in a very small way between our classes and our students in this project. So without further ado, we're very happy that Judi's with us. And it's all you. Thank you.
Thank you, Armin. And I am so impressed. My goodness, you are from all over, and you are obviously very enthusiastic and engaged teachers, because look at all the participation. Just read the chat in response to Armin's great exercise. I have to confess that in American schools, there has not until extremely recently been an emphasis on using that kind of strategy with students. And now it is becoming, particularly in the wake of the pandemic, all that much more critical that we do exactly what Armin just modeled. So thanks, Armin. That was really great. I am thrilled that Louise and Armin invited me to do this and to share my work, because I came at this somewhat through a back door to global education. And so let me tell you a little bit about me before I launch into slides. I teach at a school in Boston called Boston Latin School. It is a public, urban school with 2,550 students, grades 7 through 12. Boston Latin's very proud of saying that it is the oldest public school in the United States, and it is. It was founded in 1635. And the joke in Boston is that Harvard was founded in 1636 to give the graduates of Boston Latin somewhere to go after they finished their Boston Latin. So there's this kind of storied tradition at the school, and the school historically has been a very conservative, traditional kind of school, very much based in the Roman classics, as it were, and then moving forward from that. Our population is a public school. It's an exam school until very recently, and it draws on people from all over the city. And that means that our population is extremely diverse. We have a lot of kids who are on free and reduced lunch. And for them, education is a pathway to a future that they maybe had not envisioned before they entered the school. So there's a lot of value in the school from the point of view of students. I've been teaching at the school for 20 years, and I am not a conventional teacher in that respect because I came from another career. I was a museum curator for about a 2-decade period, focusing on modern and contemporary art. And I worked in museums that you know, possibly in New York, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Portland, Maine, as a curator, and published a lot. And if you Google my books, you'll find them. And I love doing that. But I really recognize that exhibitions come and go. Museums are not something that everybody in the universe accesses. And then I felt I could make more of a difference in society, in education. And that's why I changed careers. Very early on in my teaching career, I decided that I wanted to somehow incorporate global travel into what I was teaching, which was modern history. I teach 4 classes of modern history, and I teach 1 class of a project-based learning program called Senior Capstone, which is something that a colleague and I created. But the project you're going to hear about today comes out of my modern history class, and it was born out of the pandemic, literally. So let me share my slides with you. So last year, not like many of you, our school very, very suddenly, relatively speaking, went remote in March because of the pandemic. And we had that happen one time before with the swine flu. We were out for a week, and everybody thought we were going to be out for maybe a week, 2 weeks. Nobody had a clue that we would be out. We're still really pretty much teaching remotely, and it's been more than a year. So I immediately realized by summer that this was not just the swine flu kind of moment, and that I would look around where I live in the Boston area, and I would see people not wearing face coverings, even though by then, despite the Trump administration's reluctance to endorse it, it was clear that medical professionals were saying people need to wear face coverings. And so literally, I was reading articles everywhere. These all come from the New York Times, which I'll talk about shortly. But I was reading articles and thinking everywhere about why are people refusing to wear face masks? And why are they refusing to take the precautions that would end this period? At least so I thought. And the more I read about it, the more I was frustrated. And I thought, this is what my students are going to have to focus on next year, is why are people so unwilling to take steps to do something that contributes to the common good? And I thought about specifically, because I teach in the United States, what is it that Americans are asked to do, really, as citizens, as members of our society? For example, adults are required, if they get a little card in the mail, to serve on a jury for a trial. But trust me, in the United States, people do crazy stuff just to be excused from that duty. They are asked to pay taxes. And people go to elaborate lengths, including people in very high office, to avoid them. They are asked to vote in the United States. But compared to most places that you come from, voting is pretty low. And this last election in November was the highest it has been in ages. They're eager to ensure that the nation is protected, but they oppose a draft or mandatory community or military service. And of course, now they are encouraged to take vaccines, but a lot of people consider themselves to be anti-vaxxers and are refusing. And climate change and the environment, people do them, maybe. It's voluntary. It's not obligatory. So I started thinking deeply about this. Why is that happening? And we found that Americans profoundly believe that their number one right is individual choice. And there's a huge body on individualism in the literature about this. And it's clear that this is not necessarily something that is a global phenomenon, but in the United States, it's very hardwired for quite a few people. So I started thinking about what could students do with that when we came back to school in the fall. And I had certain objectives that they would think about ways in which you could address civic obligations and responsibilities, to recognize how we have examples of that in recent history, and what kinds of campaigns could they embark on, writ small or writ large, to address this. And at the time, I was only thinking within the United States. So I, for example, would give them lots of articles, and I would use something called the right question technique or the question formulation technique to basically get students to interrogate some of the premises or observations in those articles. And if you're not familiar with the Right Question Institute, which is an organization based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, that really encourages teachers to use question formulation as a way to get at deep learning, I can tell you more about that when we break into Q&A. So I set up Padlets, which you're all familiar with, and I divided them into 5 topics: public health and well-being, universal rights, peacemaking and preserving peace, issues of justice, law and public service, and finally the environment. All of them were loosely tied to the Sustainable Development Goals. And I got kids to sort of say, what would we need to do, very simply, little kind of post-its, to address the common good and advance the common good in these 5 categories. So these are some examples of what students said. What do individuals or groups need to do? Here's 2 more. And a little larger, so easier to read. And another one.
Judi, these students were all high school, correct?
Yes. Oh, my apologies. I teach 11th and 12th grade, grades ages 16 through 18. Mm-hmm. And here's some related to the environment. And if you read the students' comments, they're very general. They don't necessarily identify actions to make such aspirational desires happen. And it was clear to me from reading these, I'll give you just another set, that these students very much were operating idealistically in something of a bubble that was very much an American bubble. So I decided, and this is what's highlighted in red here, that we needed to broaden the scope of this. And the convergence of my interest in global exposure for my students and these issues came together. So the idea was, let's see if we asked students and teachers around the world those same questions and address those same issues, what would happen? So in thinking about this, I reached out to every organization under the sun. I, like all of you, was affiliated with a program from IREX and the Department of State that was the Teachers for Global Classrooms and is now part of the Fulbright initiative that I think many of you are part of. And I reached out to lots of those people. You might recognize Emily Lester, who was at the time overseeing the program I was involved in at Fulbright. Daniel Allen on the left is involved with Educating for American Democracy and creating a new civic program. And one of the things, and she's now running for governor in Massachusetts, but one of the things Danielle is doing is trying to address these issues that I was addressing domestically, and informed me, which was very impactful at the time, that there was no one who was actually looking at civic education cross-culturally in any sort of systematic way, which was really interesting. Felisa Tibbetts, whose picture is the second from the left, runs international education at Columbia, the Grad School of Education, Teachers College, and Veronica Boamancia, here in the middle, is the person who created the global competence frameworks with Asia Society, and Tony Jackson there. So these were people that I knew, and I reached out to a lot of them to get advice about how to go about this. And then I started sending emails, crazy amount of emails. Armin knows this, so I'm the queen of emails.
Email machine, it's the best.
Yep. And to my shock, one of the things that the Fulbright folks recommended is that I post on one of their internal bulletin boards, which I did, thinking, who reads those? No one will read that. And I received a tsunami of responses from teachers who wanted to participate in some way. They didn't know how, they just wanted to participate. And within weeks, I had 40 some odd educators in 40 different countries wanting to do this. So the map, which actually is already out of date since I made these slides, shows you the countries that are represented. And those of you who were able to look at the website that I know Armin and Louise shared with you, that I created, this map is in there as well. And there's a list of participants. You can see the countries. And yes, many of you are from countries that are not represented, and we would love to have you. So yay, please do think about that. I'll talk about that later. So you can kind of see the timeline of how I did this, right? That in the beginning of the year, I was focusing exclusively on domestically Boston Latin students. And then by late October, we launched into the global communication. And initially, the global communication was via email or WhatsApp. We found that with very few exceptions, the students preferred WhatsApp. And they would then post on things like Padlet. We had a discussion board going kind of loosely. And they would have readings. I should also mention, you probably noticed that many of the articles that I showed you before were from the New York Times. One of the reasons that I am highlighting that is because this year I have a fellowship with the New York Times, and it's been amazing. It's the inaugural year of their fellowships. And I ended up doing this project in conjunction with the New York Times. So I used many of their resources, and they've published pieces related to some of the stuff that came out of these discussions. Right now, the students are in the midst of asynchronous discussion boards and surveys, which is part of phase 2. So we're in this period from January to April, and we're hoping to go into phase 3 in April, although I'm going to talk about that later. There are some issues with the way in which this rolled out, the pandemic and how it's affecting it, and the like that affect that, I think. So for example, in that first phase, in a Padlet on students writing about human rights in marginalized populations, the question was, are there populations in your countries that have fewer rights or are treated less fairly or less equally than others? Are there populations that are advantaged or privileges and populations that are disadvantaged? Describe these populations. How are they treated? How do you think they should be treated? And you can see the array of participants just on the first tier of that Padlet, from Bosnia, from Poland, from Nepal, but that's just a sampling. Here's a response from India. And one of the things, by the way, I should note is that in the asynchronous discussions, the idea is to keep the kids anonymous so that their first name and last initial and just their region or their hometown is identified. And what the students are doing is they are literally educating one another in ways that my students would never have had access to. And what their teachers tell me is that their students didn't have access to this information either, because there's only so much we can cover in curriculum. And so this gave them perspectives that they simply didn't have access to. Here's a response from Bosnia. And immigration frequently, as you might imagine, in this thread came up a lot. And I'll give you another one. Here's Australia. And some of these were so significant for students everywhere, but I know for my own students, now that we're looking very closely at the rise in Asian American hate crimes against Asian Americans in the United States, these posts meant a lot to my students. Here's Lebanon. Dominican Republic. And I know I'm going through these quickly. I'm happy to share the slide deck with you after. Myanmar. We turned to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in interrogating those questions, and we looked at an article about the rise in immigration, given that so many of the discussants brought up immigration issues, and we then went deeper on that issue. So in phase 2 of this, I decided to move the initiative onto a different platform for a couple of reasons. One, we were obviously, as you already saw, we were conducting a lot of the discussions in English, and I felt that it might be beneficial if students had a way to write in their native languages if they chose to, and then have it translated multiple languages for other readers who might not be fluent in that language. And I literally stumbled upon, through a colleague, a platform called narrativeatlas.org that was created by 2 former educators based in the Virginia area in the United States as part of an initiative they had called MapWorks Learning, where they were teaching through maps. Interestingly, one of those educators had been what in the United States we called an army brat. He moved around a lot of countries during his childhood and was educated in different places and was interested in bringing those opportunities that he had as a child to something he did in education. And so that's where he was coming from. So I want to show you, this is the landing page that I see in Narrative Atlas. And I'm going to stop my share and switch platforms so that you can see Narrative Atlas more clearly. So you're looking at my homepage for Narrative Atlas and the groups that are created as part of Narrative Atlas. Are you seeing, did I reshare that? No, I did not.
Share, we don't see it yet.
You don't see it yet. Hang on one sec. There we go. Thank you. All right, now you're seeing it, yes?
All good.
Good, thank you, Armin. All right, so what I ended up, there are now about 500 something students in this initiative. I think we're close to 600 now. And so I divided them into 4 groups. The letters down here had to do with the old WhatsApp groups. For those of you that are curious, there were 26 WhatsApp groups, and I reduced those to 4 big groups to get a more robust discussion going among students. The beauty of Narrative Atlas is that as a teacher, I could invite all the students onto this platform. They could create profiles if they wanted to. They could communicate with one another, and there were tools, which I can show you, that allowed us to use maps. It allowed us to create story maps collaboratively. It allowed us to create video on the platform. It allowed us to use Zoom via the platform in a protected platform. So let me take you into, say, one of the groups, just so you can see what, oh, good God, sorry. Hello, please log in. Thank you. Sorry about that. So, if we're in this one group, so you end up on a landing page and you see recent activity that I see in all the groups. But now this one is group 1. And so you can see some of the discussions that went on. The kids welcomed each other and communicated. And then to kind of do an icebreaker, students weighed in, having nothing to do with the civic obligation and responsibility, on the issue of soup and soups they recommend. This is in the middle of winter here in the United States at the time, so you can see that. And then we started getting down to the business of topics of effective civic actions and where they're happening. And we created a map of that, which I'll show you momentarily. And then we used the video programs. Whoops. Hello, this is going to take a minute to load. And you can see students weighing in, for example, by video.
Hello. My reaction to this video, wow. First, I thought it was pretty disgusting and ignorant.
I should qualify this. The students watched a video of people burning masks and refusing to wear them.
And also, I really hope that those are not masks that they recently bought, because, I mean, that's a waste of materials to people that could actually be using them. With that being said, they shouldn't have done it, period. But I also thought it was almost scary how it was these kids and they were chanting, oh, burn it, burn it. And it's just instilling these, in my opinion, horrible values into these kids. It's like, what are you trying to teach them? Like, are you trying to teach them, oh, to promote bioterrorism? Because in my opinion, that's what they're asking their children to do. And I was also curious, like, what's going through their heads to think that this is something that they should be doing, you know, in this public area, and they just shouldn't be doing it, period. But this video it made me very angry, and it's not cool or nice. It's horrible to look at. I'm
going to stop that. Let me scroll down a little bit and I can show you this one. Let's see, from Bosnia.
Hi, so I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Aria. I'm from First Bosnian Gymnasium here in Sarajevo, Bosnia. So I actually saw this video like a few days ago. I don't know, Twitter or somewhere. And my first reaction was probably disappointment. Because if it were adults in the video, the situation would be kind of different. They're doing the same thing, it's bad. But they have their own opinions. They are adults, they know how to think and how to have a critical opinion. But in the video, those are kids, children that adults put the idea in their head that those masks are bad and told them, okay, so we're gonna make a video, you're gonna burn them, blah, blah, blah. That's the difference. Those kids were influenced by probably their parents, and they don't even know what they're doing. Yeah, it is bad because some people don't have the money for those masks, and those masks could potentially save lives. By doing this, they are endangering everyone. They are also they are doing a great deal of damage to the environment too, because it's burning. And to sum it up, I just think it's bad. Yeah.
So you get sort of the idea. And the cool thing about this platform is that you can incorporate video in that way very easily. Literally, the students can do it directly in this platform. The two most recent assignments, one that just was launched this weekend, so you're not going to see any responses yet, but the other is this one, which related to addressing poverty and inequity using the lens of the Sustainable Development Goals, and two videos, one a TED Talk and something else. And then you see students responding in a much more conventional way. And the other, and here I'm going to stop the share and then link to something that I should have pulled up for you before. Hang on one second. The other thing that I should show you is, let me get that again. Here we go. Is the map that the students created to document what they saw as effective civic action in different places around the world. So literally, if you click on one of these, you can see students writing about different events or different people who have taken effective civic action to advance the common good someplace on the planet. And each of these markers leads to a pop-up. Some of these are my students, you can see, but there were lots of contributions to this, and the list keeps growing. So this map, if you blow it up, you would see hundreds of these little markers. It's quite impressive. The other thing that I can show you really quickly is that the most recent assignment relates to this. And I assume you're seeing this on your screen right now, which is a series of bar charts. Yes, Armin?
We can see it.
Terrific, because I wasn't sure. I switched tabs. The students created and conducted a survey related to fear. And the survey asked people of all ages, not just student age, what are they afraid of? And the respondents would go and respond to different issues that they were afraid of. You can see the examples here. And this was quite a long survey. The students are now, we now have about, I think it's 600 responses to this survey. And the students are now using the data from this survey to look at how might fears affect their willingness, people's willingness to engage in civic action. So they're linking it back to the central theme of the initiative. And stay tuned, that's what they're going to be working on. They're working on this week. So let me unshare that and just go back for a moment to my slides. And as a final slide, I just wanted to throw this out. This is the first year I've done this. It's been a high wire act. I didn't know what to expect, and I had a lot to think about. So I've been constantly keeping a running list of issues and challenges, because I think as a teacher and an educator, I have to be thinking about this as processing the issues as I'm going through. So if you look, you know, how do I keep the issues current? How do I center the student voice? How do I make sure it's driven by their curiosity and their questions and their interests? and not just my agenda? How do I make sure in a global context that I'm not driving it with a US agenda? I fear that I am. How do I use global media? How do I make sure that we're reading a wide number of voices? And most importantly, if you scroll down to the bottom of those questions, how do I sustain this? Because the hardest part has been the closures, the lockdowns, the exam schedules for different schools, the pacing at partner schools, inequities in terms of access to tech and access to unfettered tech, meaning that if we provide a link that everybody can access it, that's been a challenge. So bottom line, I'm so thrilled that this has happened. I've been thrilled by the interest, but I'm concerned about keeping the momentum going. And of course, we start a new school year for us anyway in September, hopefully back in person. And I want to keep this going even as we resume global travel. So I'm going to stop my share. And in the chat, I'm going to put my contact information. And if any of you are interested in joining the initiative, oh my God, I would be thrilled. So I'm going to stop and answer questions.
Wonderful.
This is so inspiring. Maybe what we can do is you can write your question in the chat, and then in order to keep some order, we'll go ahead and when it's your turn, we'll say your name and you can read your question aloud. So go ahead and start writing them in the chat.
As people are writing that, I just wanted to say it's inspiring because we all have difficulties and problems around the world, but you've been able to take those problems and create a meaningful discussion globally. So I think that's really interesting.
Thanks, Armin. I'd like to think that's true.
Yeah.
I see already a question from Betsy. So do you want Betsy to read that, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, Betsy can read it. Betsy can go first, and we'll just go down the list. So Betsy, what's your question?
Hi, Judy. I'm here in Florida, and I love this idea. I've been looking at the Right Question Institute website. I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about the QFT technique.
Right.
I'm always looking for more ways to engage students that way, so I'd love to hear more about it.
Right. So QFT technique, I actually learned about through my work on the senior capstone program, which we developed in 2014. What it is the idea that learning should be driven not by teachers' agendas, but by students' questions. That is not to say that teachers can't set an agenda. Obviously, we orchestrate learning to a degree, right? But if I walk in, for example, and I say, today we're going to talk about global warming, just for instance. So the way the QFT thinks about that is you get kids to then interrogate the topic, literally by brainstorming, either individually or collectively. We always do it collectively. Every question they might have as a way to suss out what they know and what they want to know. Right. So you get them, typically you use the QFT, you create a topic and you have the students ask questions of the topic. Then they go through and they rank the questions that they have in terms of deep questions or questions that you could answer by Googling it and going on Wikipedia and finding the answer. And you then come up with what's the meatier question? What's the question that has that yields more questions? And so you create this kind of hierarchy of questions. And then students cull the questions, what's a deep question, what's a shallow question, not to judge them, but rather the strategies you would need and the amount of critical thinking you would need to engage in order to answer the questions. And then they conclude by the strategies that they would go to answer the questions. And that then generates the path for the learning. The QFT folks are based in Cambridge. They do a lot of training. You can go and take courses in it. But frankly, their videos are so good that you don't really, and there's a book that they wrote, which is easy to find online. I think there's a PDF of it online. It's just so good. And what's beautiful about the videos is they show you students actually doing it. So as a teacher, you can watch students in another school doing it, you modify it to make it work for your environment, and then you do it. And I've used it in multiple contexts, and I love the way that it gets students engaged. And in a virtual, this year I've had to do it a lot in the virtual climate. And the virtual climate, you can use something like a Jamboard or a Padlet even to get the kids collaborating on it. You can even use a chat and then have them rank it. But what's good is some vehicle that allows students to annotate what other students write. So Jamboard is particularly good that way, as is Padlet. So, yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Other questions people have?
Looks like our next question is from Andy. Andy, do you want to go ahead and ask your question? I'll go ahead and ask his. So Andy asked, how do you think it is best to trigger students' critical thinking?
If I had the answer for that, I would be, I don't know, I'd be the master of education. I think the only thing you can do is push the questions. In other words, if a student, let's take the example I showed you with those short videos. The students are watching this short video about children with their parents on the steps of the Idaho legislature burning masks. If all they said in response is, that was bad. Take Paula, that first student that responded. That was bad. I was shocked. Obviously, that's not an example of critical thinking. That's a response, right? So the logical question from that would be, well, why is it bad, right? Why? In other words, question to question to question to question, which forces a deeper answer. To me, getting kids to think more deeply is critical thinking. Challenging pat responses is critical thinking. And the beauty of the global exchange is that the kids see one another's thinking and think more deeply about that. In other words, that upends their perspective because it gives them other perspectives.
Pierre had an interesting question. Pierre, do you want to ask your question?
Hello.
Go ahead and read. Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry, go ahead, Pierre.
Yeah, I'm online. So I want to know what a teacher can do if he fails to understand the real world issues, the problem of the world.
Right. And Pierre, I think that is a really important question that a number of my colleagues in the US talk about a lot. And they ask it because they feel woefully uninformed themselves. They don't have time to keep up with news. They're overwhelmed by media online. They feel as if they haven't had an opportunity to travel. They don't feel as if they have deep knowledge. And so rather than go into teaching in this global arena, they stay out of it because they feel like they'll mess up, they won't do it correctly. My answer to that is, good God, as teachers, we all know how much we don't know, right? We all know there's no way we are walking encyclopedias of every bit of knowledge on the planet. And happily, we are living in a time when if we don't know about something, we can look it up. It's not like we have to race to a library or a university or some place to get information anymore. It's accessible to us for the most part. Now, that said, I would consider myself a relatively voracious reader of media, but I also am a relatively voracious reader of English language media. which even though I can speak French and I can read Swedish and I can read a little bit of German, I am still very Eurocentric in my reading and American-centric in my reading, and that's problematic. So, for example, one of the things that I would like to do with this global project next year is I would like to start the year where every single student is responsible for tracking media from a certain source, and that everybody is, let's say you're in Pakistan, that you're reading a local newspaper and relaying to students who cannot access or read that local newspaper or news source what's going on, what are the top stories there, so that literally we expand the lens. That's going to require a lot of sharing and all of that. But if we stay on the Narrative Atlas platform, the beauty of that is that you could include lots of links and other people could try to access it. And then using either the Narrative Atlas translating tools or Google Translate, we could at least get a rough idea of what the content is. So the student could summarize it and then share it. I think the biggest message, to go back to your original question, is teachers have to be unafraid of saying, you know what, I don't know the answer, but let's figure out how to find out the answer and how to learn more about it.
Brenda had a question next. Brenda, would you like to read your question?
Brenda from
Go
Mauritius.
ahead and read. I'll go ahead and read this one. So Brenda asks, Judy, if you were not a North American educator, but with the same passion and dedication that you have, but you were a teacher in a poor, less resource-rich country, will you have the same impact in other schools throughout the world?
That's obviously an excellent question, and a good number of the teachers who are involved with this initiative are in that exact predicament. For example, we have a significant number of teachers who are in remote areas within Rwanda, and they have had a lot of trouble accessing some of the, on a regular basis, some of the platform work, and particularly the bandwidth to see, for example, video online as opposed to just text online. We've had a lot of challenges, for example, with the school that's involved in China, in that case, because of barriers to accessing certain websites in China. In terms of being from a poor country, I fully recognize that this initiative is predicated on the idea that we all have some ability to access remotely. And that's really challenging because not everybody does. And you all know this. I mean, you're all right now in this session, but I would imagine that some of you have glitchier Zooms, shakier internet connections than others. And that to me, that is one of the great educational inequities in the world, that the future is clearly moving to online resources and access. And we have to, as a world, do something to make sure that everybody has the access that they need. So I don't know if that answered Brenda's question exactly, but it's as close as I think I can get. By the way, I see in the chat that there are a number of comments about English language learning.
Can I have a question?
Sure, but let me just say, for those of you who are interested in English language learning, quite a few of our teachers joined this initiative because they wanted that. And so that's why we stayed with English, because there was a common goal in getting kids more proficient in English, but it also affects access and opportunity for students who are not learning English. So hence the reason we went to Narrative Atlas. I'm sorry,
Hello.
there was another question.
Go ahead.
I'm Sani from Pakistan, and I have my question
Sure.
that the area where I'm going to teach English. I'm basically an English teacher, and I'm teaching from grade 8 to grade 10th. That's my subject. So the area where I'm going to teach, that is totally federal area. There is no facility of Wi-Fi. Even parents don't have mobile facilities.
Right.
And in this pandemic situation, I have to teach them while using WhatsApp. I'm creating my own ways. I'm trying to send my own notes, assignments. Basically, this time our exam schedule has been changed, and might be our exam setup will start from 19th of April. So students have to appear in objective type exam. And this is their first trial. Even they don't have their mobile phones. They have only one mobile phone per family, which is supported, or you can say, handled by their fathers. And at evening time, they can get the chance to come on that mobile for an hour or for some minutes. So I have to arrange so many things. I have given them so many links where they can apply, where they can learn how to give the answers of those objectives which have been planned for their examination system. I'm collecting from all types of colleges, schools, whatever they have selected. But the main issue is there is no facility of online classes with them. They even don't have any Wi-Fi, even mobile data is not available with them. And my class is up to their strength is 50. That is 10th grade. So I'm very in critical situation. You can't imagine that it's not only an issue of my result, but they have to appear. Even first time we are going to introduce our examination system will be basically dependent on superintendent of that hall. She might not be knowing about online classes because it's not that much, you can say, advanced system, and they have to work on it. So I'm very much worried about their result, because at end of this May, they will have their board classes and they must have to appear in this exam. So please kindly resolve my this one issue, that how can I handle them in this pandemic situation?
I don't know if that's a question I can answer. I completely empathize with your situation, and it's an enormous challenge. What I have discovered on WhatsApp is that the students, if they can access it, have high participation rates, but it's very limited in terms of what they can share. And that's one of the many reasons that we moved off WhatsApp when we had the opportunity. But right, I mean, a number of you are talking about that in Brazil as well, and that's a huge problem. And I know that, for example, Brazil was a country that we were really eager to include in this initiative, and a number of the schools I reached out to, the teachers had exactly that problem, and that was the challenge in getting their students onboarded. So yeah, the one thing that I would say, and is that, for example, where we have this problem in Rwanda, the students had to buy packets of internet access, and we ended up funding that. We raised money to fund that, and we sent the Rwandan teachers money to help support that. But that was a unique situation to Rwanda where they could do that. It's not true in every country.
Thank you so much for your reply. And I will work on it. I have told the principal, and all the administration also know, but due to lack of fund, and you know that in urban area, there are no so much issues. But in federal area, we have to face such kind of reality.
Right. And Saima, where are you from exactly? Which country?
Pakistan.
I'm from Pakistan.
Pakistan.
And yes, and that is Islamabad, our capital. Right. And that is the area, you can say, villages of. There are 65 schools of boys and girls. They are in federal area. This is one sector. There are 5 sectors, 6 sectors. 2 are in urban area and 4 are from this type of federal area.
Right.
And each one is having more than 50 schools.
Right.
Thank you, Simon. I think Monica has a question.
Oh, hi. Hi, everybody. It's not really a question. It's more like a commenting on you were saying about the lack of resources.
Yeah.
I think this is worldwide. Even in the US, students face the same problem. Recently, I was participating in a tech camp, and a professor there commented that some students, they are using Wi-Fi from McDonald's or places like
Yes.
that, so they can access their activities from schools. 3 years ago, I was in Philly and I was visiting some public schools, and some schools, they had the Google education project in which they were giving students Chromebooks. But the point was that some students, when they come home, they don't have Wi-Fi to work on their computers. So I don't know, it's more like a government issue than we can do something to help, but if governments don't change their minds about it, it will be really hard. Thank you.
It is interesting, Monica, just to offer. So there's a new bill being proposed here in the US from the Biden administration about infrastructure. And in that bill, at the moment, there is universal Wi-Fi. The idea that as part of building roads and bridges and all the rest and improving train travel and plane travel and all of that, there would also be an insistence on making sure that every community in the country has access to affordable or free Wi-Fi. And to me, I agree, that's a right that should be as guaranteed as electricity or running water or what have you. So, yeah.
I think we have time for one more question. I see a lot of questions about how to propose questions. So maybe we could dive one more into teacher Stella about QTF or QFT. I think that was something that came up a lot. Stella, do you want to ask your question?
All right. In fact, I don't have a question, but I just share my experience. Like, I often ask students to prepare the questions about our topics for class in advance. And then when they go to class, they work in group and they ask each others, like quizzes. So friends will answer about those questions. If they don't know, the student have gave that question will share about the answer and share knowledge, so they learn from their friends. But you know, in our class in Vietnam, we have a big class with more than 40 students, and with the mixed level. I mean, most of them are low level of English. So how can we have the other people, especially the lower students, can engage more in our class with those kind of techniques? If the students are good enough, so they will try their best to nominate the group discussion, right? And how about the lower level student? So do you have any strategies so how to gain student involvement in our class? Thank you.
Thank you, Stella. I would say that one of the things that I have found with this initiative is that the questions that the students address seem to engage them a lot. And part of what engages them, sometimes it's an article, sometimes it's a video. I found that the video clips were really effective in doing that, and that was great. I have students who are great writers and really willing to speak publicly, and I have students who are terrible writers from an English language standpoint. They have challenges that they need to really work on in their writing and are much more hesitant. But for whatever reason, this platform of engaging with other students, both casually on WhatsApp and a little bit more formally on the website, has engaged them in ways that I wouldn't have predicted. So what I love about it is it's not something that appeals to students who are high performing students, but it also has appealed, which is great, to struggling students. And this is particularly true when they are, and as so many of my students come from other countries originally, and they hear voices from the countries from which they came or from nearby countries, that for them is very affirming and engages them a lot.
Yes,
And by the way, I should say that I have a lot of Brazilian students, for example. It's why we were so eager to have some students from Brazil.
all right.
Boston has a big Brazilian population.
Yes, it does.
So I guess what Judi, you answered to Stella is that there's no one way of getting students involved. It's just getting them access to different kinds of resources and seeing what sticks.
Exactly. And I would say in this trial year of this initiative, that's been a little bit trial and error. But now that we have 1 year done, I think I have a better sense of that. And one of the other things I should say, which I failed to mention, is separate and apart from the student work, we have a teacher discussion group that's going on. There are two of them. One is on the Narrative Atlas. You might have noticed it when I showed the groups. And the other one is on WhatsApp. And oh my goodness, what a community of teachers. It's really a great community. And we've dealt with everything from the issues that some of you are talking about on the chat with Wi-Fi, as well as some of the issues that relate to student motivation, exams, being remote, the COVID situation, et cetera. And so the idea, and someone asked in the questions about how do we come up with topics? Well, a lot of that comes out of those teacher group discussions. Where should we move next in this discussion? What seems to be energizing your students? So that's what's great. But now, just like you have created this supportive community through what Louise and Armand are doing here, so to have these teachers, I really value the friendships that have emerged within that teacher group.
Wonderful.
Thank you. I know that we're on different time schedules and some people are joining us at 2 a.m. in the morning and 3 a.m. at the morning. So Judi, if it's okay with you, would it be okay for you to stay on at the end and address more individual questions?
Absolutely.
I want to keep us
Mustafa, there's more questions.
Late at night or early morning.
Right, and if Lucine and
go ahead and we'll go to go ahead.
If Lucine and Mustafa have questions, if they have their hands up, I would be happy to answer those in the chat and then, or stay on after and I'll answer them in person.
Perfect.
Wonderful. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start the breakout room. So I'm going to share my screen. Just like last week, we'll do 3 rounds of breakout room. So you'll have 1 question for your first set of people, a second question for your next breakout room, and it will go from there for a total of 3. And just to kind of piggyback on something that Judi mentioned, it's so awesome to make networks of teachers. So when you do get the chance to meet and collaborate with people, try to figure out and make connections for different projects that you could do to collaborate on. I'll go ahead
and I just want to say what Judi did was very advanced in that she was learning as she was doing it, and you had, like, for me it felt very advanced, Judi, because you had so many countries and really high level questions. And I think that we can also think at the level of English that our students speak, right, and do an exchange. So don't compare yourself. Like if I compare myself to Judi, I'm not gonna be too happy. I'm joking, but you know what I mean. We shouldn't compare ourselves to anyone. Just know whatever your students can do is okay. Would you agree with that, Judy?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so just to think about that, because everyone's knowledge is different. Everyone's knowledge on different topics is different. And go ahead, Louise, you can share the first question.
Okay, yes, I totally agree though. That project is both inspiring but nerve-wracking to think about how one would take something like that on. That was amazing.
Yeah, but it was
So
beautiful.
I encourage everyone, if you would like to take a photo of your screen so that you can have access to these questions at any time. For our first session, we'll do what kind of virtual exchange would be most effective for your students and why. I think we've kind of covered that for some people it could be language, it might be by topic, it might be about location. For our second session, imagine a one-year virtual exchange you could build for your students. Describe it to your peers. Who would be involved? How often would participants meet? What would participants discuss? And would they build something or work on a project? And third is a bigger challenge. If you were to create a trial 1 week virtual exchange starting Monday with your students, how would you organize it? Can you and your breakout room peers collaborate and connect classes? So even if you couldn't take on something as large of a scale that Judi presented, would you be able to collaborate with other teachers and present at least something as a trial period as you build or maybe try to connect with the project that Judi created?
Exactly. So our first question, because it's a lot of questions to remember, is just what Louise said. What kind of a virtual exchange would be effective for your students' needs, and why? So maybe if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of internet, maybe it's just your students writing on paper and taking photos and sending it through WhatsApp. I don't know. But think about your context, and we'll have groups of 5. Does that work?
Perfect.
Perfect. And I think that's going to work. So we'll do it and we'll come back together in how many minutes, Louise?
Let's do 5.
Okay. 5 minutes. So
I
everyone
pose
should
a
get
question.
like a minute to speak, and we'll see you in a moment. Some of our people are not assigned, so for them, you'll just stay in the main room and have your discussion, okay? What kind of an exchange would you do with your class, considering whatever the reality is of your class? I know for my elementary class, it would be very challenging. And some of you can just stay in here. I see there's Pierre, Professor Lucas, Rasha, Sada. We can just share in here. So what would you do as an exchange? Anyone can go first who wants to. I'll share what I want to do for this week. I want to have my students talk about different games that they play. So it could be a video game or a physical game, like tag, or what kinds of games they play, and learn about games in different countries. Because I work with kids. How about you, Professor Lucas? What kind of an exchange would you want to do?
Actually, I want to do an exchange using cultural resources, and I like to do some activities discussing about culture in Brazil and in other countries.
Cool. All right. I'm gonna go help a group, but keep sharing, and maybe what aspect of culture. But I like that.
So what about you? What kind of exchange would you do with your students?
Hi everyone. Yeah,
Hi.
Pierre from Senegal. So I'm teaching this in an area just a little bit difficult. My students, the lack of means, okay, more than the majority, they do not have cell phones or computers, something like that, and they are in a poor area with no electricity in the school, but at their house, in their houses, they have electricity, but they lack means material. Last time I tried, just this, and I noticed that they do not have cell phone. I wanted to try with the online classes. Or if I did, it was they will lose, and I do not want to be two sides in with the others, and with one the ones and leave the others. No, but I I what I expect to do with them, maybe even if it is face-to-face class, but discuss about their local culture, because we're not living in the same, not live in the where they are. We live in the same country, but we have different localities. Okay, they live in where we call Futa, and I live in a place where it's yes. So I was appointed, to teach there, and our culture are different around the local culture, and maybe thank you.
Welcome back. It was very fast, and it's hard to know every step. All right. Hope you had a good discussion, just sharing ideas. I think what Judi was saying is just by talking to each other, we get new ideas. And what's our second question, Louise?
Yes, so our second question is, imagine a one-year virtual exchange you could build with your students. And even if you don't cover all of this, but just talk to us about who would be involved, how often would people meet, what would an ideal one-year virtual exchange look for you, like for your students?
Perfect. I made the rooms, and let me get a sense. We don't have a lot of time, but can someone just let us know, was 5 minutes too fast? It felt fast to me.
Yes.
Is it okay?
It's very
Yes.
fast.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Like
You
1 minute.
gave us comments. You gave three interesting questions, but you gave only the short time. So
No, we're doing one question per 5 minutes, and that's just where we're
Yes.
adjusting.
Yeah.
But I
Even with
agree it's
one
too
question,
short. So
Armin,
do you
I
need
feel like
7?
it was a little bit too fast. Could you give
Me
us 8
too.
minutes?
That's listen. This is like the experimentation part, right? Where something doesn't work and you adjust it, and it just will keep not working and you adjust. So 8 minutes, does that work? I agree. It felt really short for me.
It would be great, but would everyone participate, please? Because some of them, they're keeping the microphone and the camera off.
Yeah.
So please, I participate, all of us, and we share our experience. We are here to share our experience and to look for solutions for all the obstacles that we are facing. Please, that would be better for all of us. Excuse me and you. Because I was in a group, no one has participated. It's a little bit, so please, everyone, if you possible, participate. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you can have your camera on, if you can't, at least respond. We don't want to be like students.
Hello.
Right? So
Hello.
do your best.
May I?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mamadou. Do your best to speak. Okay, because this is more of an experience of interacting, not just listening and learning. That's not, at least that's not our aim. Our aim is to have you talk with each other.
Great. May I?
Yeah, Mamadou, we're just going to read the question. What is the next question?
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mamadou.
Okay, good.
What is the next question, Luis?
Imagine a one-year virtual exchange you could build for your students and just describe it to us. Who would be involved? What would you talk about? Would you work on a project? What does a one-year exchange look like for your students in your current classes?
Right. It could be 1 year, 1 month. And the main thing is, what topics would you have your students talk about, right? What do you want them to learn in your individual class that they can maybe share with other classes? So with that, if you need a screenshot, you can take it, get your mics on, and have a good conversation. And I'll move a couple of people into other rooms. Move to the main session. Let's see here, I'm gonna move people. Russia, I'll move. And I'm all over here. Hello, Russia.
Hello,
How are you doing, Russia?
I'm fine. What about you?
Wonderful.
Okay, I want to talk about something. Uh, First of all, we are using a platform in our school to communicate with the students. So that's of course make it easy for us since they can chat with us in chat rooms, but of course we have to give them a specific time, and we can send them PowerPoint presentations, whatever. So in this way, and we can make projects together, and they can present it also. So what I want to talk about is that this is I'm always stuck in my mind, which is I talk to them about happiness and how can they even though we are living in a pandemic time, so everything, we have lockdown here in Lebanon, and we are not able to go anywhere. So I discussed with them, and we did projects. For example, grab a box and decorate it and put inside it whatever makes you happy. So in this way, whenever a worry sneaks into your mind, you can open it and look at the things that make you happy. So in this way, they were so excited, and they did it and share it with others. So this is what I want to tell you about.
So what age are your students?
They are 11 years, so they are grade 6.
That sounds really fun. And what sounds like the exchange part could be is everyone in different countries could make their own happiness box and then share activities.
Yeah.
I think that's really a wonderful idea. And then
Thank you.
I'm
And
trying to
I
think.
like it. I like to spread positive vibes. So that's why I told them this is very nice. And whenever I noticed their reactions, I was so thrilled.
It's something very powerful when your students get excited, you get excited,
Yeah,
and there's like
sure.
this exchange of
Yes.
joy.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea, and I guess let me move this person to the session here. I'm trying to think. So if you did that lesson with students in this year, like if you were to have students in another country join, how would you have them join you in the activity?
I can maybe ask them to also the same things, because the students have different interests, so they can use the same activity, but they can put things that maybe they are interested in.
Got it. So some kid may be into making art, and another
Yeah.
child may be into
So this is
watching.
they have different interests. Yes.
Really fun. It could also be interesting to have pictures of students doing things that they love, and then
Yeah.
writing, right now I am, I don't know, coloring, or right now I am
I asked them
translating.
once. I asked them to put breathtaking coloring papers, whatever they have done, and they liked it, so they can put it inside the box also.
That's amazing. And then I guess trying to get them to connect it with language, like they're saying what they liked to do. Like when I'm sad, I like to, or when I'm
Yes.
to be happy, I like to. I like it.
Even a music playlist, they can put it inside the box, whatever. Maybe a fluffy sock, a handy cream, whatever they like.
Wonderful. Let's see, Rasha, if Asad or Salwa or Al-Hidayatul has an activity that they would want to do for their exchange. Anyone else want to unmute and share? I think it may just be me and you, Rasha. Oh, Salwa? I don't know.
Yes.
I don't. Yeah, go ahead, Salwa.
Yes.
What would you do for your
Yes.
exchange with
Sure.
students?
Yeah. For exchange program, I have
I don't think we can hear her very well.
yes.
Go ahead, Salwa. Maybe, Salwa, you can write it down because we can't hear you.
For exchange, I have an experience.
Okay. Salwa, please write it down. We can't hear you. I guess the connection's not the best. Just write it for us. Arlison? Let's see, Arlison, do you have something for us? I don't know, Rasha. I think we don't hear everyone clearly.
I can hear you.
Go ahead, Salwa. What would you do for your exchange? Okay. Well, the exchange that I would do was I would have students talk about different topics of things that are important to them. So like Rasha was saying, but I would do it topic by topic, like every week. That would be my exchange idea. I think that's it. Rasha, if Vilasala, if you ever want to join, I have an exchange with students and they meet every week and we talk with students around the world.
Oh, nice. Yes. How
Would you
can
be
I
interested?
join?
Yeah. I'll send you the link if you want to join, okay?
Okay, yes.
Sure. Hope you were able to talk. Oh, some people are writing ideas. We couldn't hear all of our people in our group, but some of them wrote their ideas in the chat box. Social media, TikTok. Okay, cool. Louise is still coming back. I like that idea, Al-Hidayah tool. Using a virtual exchange with like social media, TikTok. I know kids love TikTok. Maybe before we jump to the next thing, I don't know if I think Louise is coming back, but we could share a couple of ideas out loud because then you can hear from each other. Did you hear something or does anyone want to share? And then we can go to the last question, but I think it's good to hear each other.
Yeah, I want to share because
Sure.
I was lucky to be in the room with Stella and we decided we need to employ whole variety of tools so that our students will not get bored and we will keep them on their toes, busy all the time. Because it's like a year-long exchange, so that would be important.
I can share mine too. In my group, for example, my peers, they haven't had any kind of experience in this field, and I offered them to make a new project for them and introduce everything connecting to these kinds of exchanging programs.
In my group, we started taking action. So I think I think the most important thing is that we are global. We are educators from different parts of the world, so we've got to take action. We've got to create like virtual exchange project with each other. And there are a lot of platforms that have readily made plans, so we can adapt them to our project. And also we can invite teachers to join and to work on maybe on a monthly plan or on a yearly plan. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to share. Okay, in the group hours, really, we were 4 people and we all initiated in using online tools to teach students. And we exchanged a lot and it was really very, very fruitful because myself, I had the experience of knowing some teachers from Armenia, from Egypt, and this is what's make it, amazing because you are learning from others, from other horizons, and this really, thank you for this opportunity, really.
Winnie?
Okay, hi. First of all, I want to say that 5 minutes are really too short because of when we talk about and then we switching around, so maybe the time could be longer. Okay, I think I'm lucky to have a 3 session, a breakout room. So the first breakout room, we have a teacher from Indonesia and also Libyan, right, and also Cuba. I think the teacher in Cuba mentioned about the internet is really, I think it's really important for the digital tool and also make us that in my country or in some other country, I think if we have an internet, it's really blessing. But we also come up that maybe the virtual exchange can, adapt it to maybe using mail post. So for the, I think communication is still important. So maybe not digital, we still can use the post mail to exchange our idea. I think that will also be cool for this experience. Yeah. So and also in the second and the third, we found that I think all the teachers are very interested about virtual exchanging, but just that we have a different students, different level. So if you find the right level, so maybe it will happen right away. And for me, my opinion or my idea is that once we start the cultural exchange, so maybe for example, the younger learner will start cultural understanding, and also the project concept or thing maybe will come up some special like a curriculum in your school. For me, my school focus on animal conservation, so maybe I will initiate this kind of asking some like exchanging animal conservation policy or issue in your country. So I think that's quite interesting for the cultural exchange, virtual exchange. Thank you.
Thank you, Winnie. Yeah, every topic will be different based on what your school is teaching. It's true. Any other, we won't put you in a different group. We'll put you in the same group. Does anyone else want to share one idea that they heard or they liked? I see there's a really good idea that was written by Betsy about the technology that can be used. Maybe Betsy, do you want to share about it? I mean, there's so many technologies. There's no one technology. I see Udifa wants to share. We're just sharing.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. At the first group, I was with Winnie, and she already explained the project. And for the second breakout room, I was with Monica from Brazil and Sarah from Lebanon. And I think 1 year project is enough. I mean, to introduce students for each other. And I think the easier way to collaborate with like cultural understanding, so it less stressing. Yeah, it is not like if we share or exchange about mathematics, basic or other lessons, but cultural understanding starting with introduction session, and that will be quite easy. And if we have a different time zone or time gap, so we create a video or any other application like Flipgrid or anything else. And once in a month or once in 2 months, we can have meet each other or using any possible platform to have meet. Maybe one students from each. I think that's possible too. Thank you.
Wonderful. Betsy, you wrote something about Parlay. Do you want to tell us what Parlay is?
Hey, yes, sure. I would love to. I have been using Parlay a lot with my face-to-face students, but also my virtual students this year. May I share my screen?
Sure.
Okay. So Parlay is a discussion board that's very easy to use, and I will select one of my courses. So the teacher creates a prompt. So this is the one that I used with my students last week. I have the questions, I can add pictures or video, and then I give them the directions for what to respond with. And then each student posts their own prompt, and they can respond to each other and reply to each other's responses. They can also, these are anonymous to each other, which is an option. They don't have to be, but I can see as the teacher who is who and turn that on and off for myself. But the students can answer questions without feeling self-conscious. I saw the question for length limit or media limitations. For the free account, you get only so many of the round tables. I paid for the annual to get unlimited discussion forums, but if you're just trying it out, the free is fine. So this is considered the online roundtable. You create your question. This one is, what color are you today? And then the students respond before they see each other's responses. But what I really wanted to share was, if you do an online roundtable, browse the universe, one of the things that came up was, what kinds of questions can we ask students? And there are hundreds of prompts already in Parlay universe, like for icebreakers, that you could use for students if you didn't know what kinds of questions to ask, or you can choose them based on your subject area or topic. So I have really loved the website. It's a little bit to figure it out, but then it's easy to use. And the students have really enjoyed it this year.
So you could make a discussion topic and invite other classes to join it?
Yes, it'd be very easy to have for the discussion forum.
Is it only writing? People were asking. We're curious.
So the online roundtable piece of it is the written discussion board, but I have used the live roundtable as part of my Zoom classes with the students online as a way to facilitate discussion. When students tap in, they can build on someone else's idea, they can challenge an idea, ask a question, or start a new topic. And it has really empowered the students to really facilitate the discussions themselves. And they love it. And now that they know how to use it, they're just excited whenever they see that we're doing Parlay.
That's incredible. I feel like we almost need to learn how to use it after we have our last breakout room, because that sounds really unique and I haven't heard of it personally. Thank you. So I guess we're going to do our last breakout room unless anyone else would like to share. And we're not ending after the last one. We're just trying to get together and keep sharing ideas. And we realize that time is not enough. But what are we aiming for this week? Our goal is to at least create an idea. If you don't do it, it doesn't happen. It's fine. But we would encourage you to try. I'll read it, all right, Luis? Okay. So if you were to create a trial 1-week virtual exchange starting on Monday with your students, how would you organize it? Would it be a live event? Would it maybe just be a Parlay or a Padlet or Flipgrid or whatever you were thinking? But I think what Winnie was talking about was really interesting, because she was saying that, you know, I have to do something related to what I teach in my classroom. I can't just do anything. So that should, and that's also based on who's in your, what level you're going to do an exchange with. So we realize that there's a lot of moving parts here and not all of them will work. But here's the question. If you were to create a virtual exchange starting on Monday with your students, how would you organize it? Can you and your breakout room peers collaborate and connect classes? We realize that there's different levels, there's different ages, and not all of them will work together, and that's okay. But just come up with an idea. So for instance, if you're really into a certain technology, you're going to lean more towards that one. How would you do your exchange? I think that's it. So I think we're going to stay in the same rooms and just share how you would potentially organize your exchange if you were to do one this week. Saima said it's complicated. If it's complicated, that is completely understandable, because if you have trouble contacting students, how would you have your students contact other students? It'd be very hard, I agree. But we're just going to imagine that, if you could get them even to take a photo of some work or a photo of something that they've written, that could be the kind of learning they would do, and maybe share it with you and you could share it with other teachers. whatever your ideas, we understand that the world is complicated. How would you do your exchange? So we'll give you time to discuss it and enjoy. We'll see if it works. And I'll move people.
Hello?
Yes.
Can I answer? Because already I did this exchange virtual project last term with a different school because already I'm working in my classroom with exchange culture classes. This is a part of English department in my school, and I work on it with literature projects, animal infection. I use Google Drive, and I put the slides on Google Drives, and I share link with our school and the school in Ukraine. And then we share an idea. We make like 3 Zoom meetings to discuss about the idea, and then the students start sharing their project, each one with the same link at the Google Drive, and then we make a like a big book for on Drive to share with the different school. This is one of the working, and then but we have some exchange programs like as for example that I talk about my experience. We have the school from Hastings in America, and then we starting doing something as community service projects. And here in Egypt, our students, they do something like is like aligned with the SDG for stop hungering on the world, and then food world day. And then we start with our project with the same line. We make pancakes, and then we make also a visit for food bank here in America and England. They each do in their country, and then we share video together. Our students in Egypt, they share it, and then our students in America, they share their visit also with the same projects. This is some idea that I work with it already, and I did it already in my school. Because before coronavirus, this idea is not common. But now this year is different, especially my school after coronavirus. They pushing the idea, and they encourage the students, and I see more students involved, and more students they are not like last year or year before. Now they want to do it. They make a project. They are active in Zoom meeting. Because after coronavirus, that happened. They're changing their attitudes even. But before that, we push the students to change their attitude and their mind, and we push teachers, and we push the directors and administrations to go through the idea. Because when we started in our school, we started like we start to enter projects. Names the bridge at the American Embassy here in Egypt, and this is a new idea for them using virtual platform because it's not common in Egypt. And thus we pushing the students and teachers, and we made like exampling and modeling for that. And but now I feel now it's easier than before, because the situation now in Egypt and the whole world is different, because we all use it online, we all use a platform. This is totally different.
Amazing.
It's inspiring, Salwa.
Yeah. So this is like coronavirus opened the door, really, and
opened the door, because I have 10-year experience working with a virtual exchange projects. It's different projects around the globe, like a PIMPAL project, and I-Earn, and Global Teenager projects, all this project. But before coronavirus, we have a big problem to make people understand what we do, and then this is important or not, how they can manage it. And each one, they said, we have a curriculum, we are running good. But now it's different, because we put inside the curriculum. Even when we make a literature projects, we choose something aligned with our curriculum, not like before. Because and this is finally, this is the reality. We have to go on. We have to work on it.
Yeah,
And I see my students now, they are in grade 9. We start use Zoom while they're wearing grade 5. Now they are in grade 9. They said we are the first in Egypt who uses Zoom meeting.
You're ahead of that.
I'm very happy now that we discuss about it. Yani, I can, inshallah, I'm gonna collect some previous work to share with you. And I'm very happy to take this experience with you to learn more, because I learned a lot. Like it's 2 sessions that I didn't use some technology platform like that. Like I hear that today. I'm very happy to share with you this.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I see. I think this is the first course. The global education talking about global education or virtual exchange programs. I think this is the first course then I hear about that. Before that, we work on like, yani, we do efforts, but we don't have something organized. Yes.
No, we're organizing it. So Salah, it sounds like you're making great connections. Maybe we can hear what Paulina's doing, and then maybe you two can exchange in some way. So Paulina, thank you, Salah. You're really involved, and it's incredible that you're connecting the real life with students' English. Paulina, can you share with us, and then we can get Shoaida?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think COVID opened the door for my students and also for me, because accidentally I met teachers online who had been active before, and they had been active with online exchanges, and I was not. But I think this year, when COVID-19 came, I think it opened the door, and I've taken part in more than 30 exchanges online with Mexico, Russia, Ukraine, Italy, Egypt, India, all sorts of countries. Sometimes it's like this is like a class and class exchange. Sometimes it's like what Armen runs, the global quarantine. So it's like massive, but I really love the class to class meetings when you give your students time and you organize it. So they have the course and they follow something. With Mexico, we exchange letters, for instance, and students don't see one another first. They only exchange letters via your inbox. So they send you their letters, you match them with a Mexican or whatever students you have, and then they reply, and then after some time there is this Zoom meeting and they see each other for the first time. So they have like the suspense is built and they have a lot of questions. So this is something I've done for the first time. I thought it would be boring, but I see that this suspense was like the cherry on the cake, and the students love it.
Like not right away, live, before they just prepare, and then after they speak live.
Yeah, but the suspense, it was something that, that made it worth waiting for them.
Nice. I like that. Shoaida, I don't know if Shoaida wants to share, but Shoaida.
Yeah.
Shoaida.
Yeah, hello. So that's very great, which Salva was talking about, like Zoom classes and using technologies in her class. Because in our country, in Tajikistan, we don't have such opportunities like using Zoom classes. But last year we had an experience to using Canvas, like when we just only could give them exercises in Canvas, and then after this they will. But it was really horrible because no all the students could understand what we're asking them for. So and it was difficult to use it because of internet connection, and so so we understood that it's a better, like offline classes are better for us for now. So yeah.
I think
But
we
still, yeah, but still we try to use WhatsApp in some classes, and in some cases we use Viber.
Thank you, Shoya.
Thank you.
Armin, can I say something?
Sure.
Okay, first, I would thank all my colleagues who were with me in the group, but we still have the same problem. Using the application that does work or that don't work without internet, this is going to let us go through the same problem. We have connection problem. So we need to go through any application that we could download the video or even the lesson. And later on, if we don't have an internet, the students or even us, we can manage it and we can watch it. So our group, we were discussing about using maybe even the YouTube. We can download the video and put it in the library so we can watch it later on, or even we can use Telegram as a group, because later on in the Telegram, anyone who would join would check all the conversation and the chat, even videos or whatever that happened before. Or if there is any application that would work, whenever our students, they get their homework or the new lesson, they download it, they don't need for the internet anymore. They get somewhere with a good connection, as one of the colleagues has said, they use McDonald's or anywhere that they have free Wi-Fi, they download the video, and later on they can go back to this video because they're not in need to the internet. There is any application, we would be thankful if you or anyone would like to share it with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rana. Yeah, so it sounds like what different people will do will be different based on what their needs are and what technology they have access to.
Okay.
Go ahead, Pierre. We get like one or two more people to share, and then
I want to add something, related to our group with Ivo and Anand. We discussed, about this topic, and most of us talk about, using WhatsApp first, to allow students to voice their message by, using a video or vocals, and then maybe on the online discussion using Zoom or in breakout rooms. Students will be prepared before, joining these breakout rooms at home. They may do also research, in the internet to prepare themselves about the topic. Since within a week it is so short, if students are not prepared before, okay, you may have for them to finish, what you want to do, and giving them the opportunity to make some research, before, by also giving their opinions in group, not in group, but differently or separately. You receive the message, and the D-Day of the online, you put them into breakout room. You will have confrontation of debate. Okay, they will exchange in this in their opinions about, and there you will have a kind of very powerful debate, because each one will want to convince the other. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
to have this kind of opportunity to discuss with guys around the world.
Salwa had an amazing project where her students were talking with students. I don't know, Salwa, I think you got to share what you were saying, because it's about that kind of students talking about one topic. Salwa from Egypt.
I'm here, yes.
It's Sarah.
Yes. Salwa?
Yeah, we can get
Sarah?
Salwa and then Sarah. Yeah, Salwa, go ahead. Just share shortly what you did with
it's Sarah.
Sarah is not.
Salwa from Egypt.
Maybe we can hear from Salwa.
I'm
from
sorry.
Egypt,
I'm sorry.
And then Sarah from Lebanon.
Okay, yes. Yes.
Go ahead, Salwa.
Yes.
Just share what you did with your class and another class in talking about food hunger and
yeah. Yes, yes, I can also, I can share the link of the news of this.
That's fine.
Not
Just tell us.
not yet, not yet. Yes, not
Got
yet,
it.
not yet. I'm gonna share. I'm gonna put it in the box.
Okay, so Salwa talked about a project where her students talked about hunger, and they. I don't know, Salwa, if you want to explain it. It's your project. Just tell the class about it, because I think it was really unique. And she said that she has a lot more engagement this year than in other years when things were in virtual.
Sorry, I put in the link on the chat. I put the link of the. This is the link of the news about this project. I'm gonna share with you also some pictures. Sorry, I'm
We'll
gonna
just
put
share
it in
another
the.
example.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the chat box. The link I put it on the chat box already.
Yeah, we got it. We're just trying to show an example of what you did, which it sounded very unique. So go ahead, Salwa.
And I'm gonna share with you.
So she combines service with learning English. Can you tell us about it, please, Salwa?
Yes. Okay. When we start about this project, this is undergrad program. We started this like 4 years ago, and we start this project with the students from different country, and from America, from England, from Maldives, and we start talking about the food World Day and hunger projects. This is some story, and I put the video with all the process. You can check also the video. If you open it at the end, the video see all the process of the project already. This video, you see the process from the beginning. There's two videos because I have two different group of the students. This is the other one. This is one, and this is the other one. Yeah, you can check with the other one, not this one. This one. This one. We start with the same process with a different country. We make a plan together, and we start making like a journey from the beginning. You see the we run initiative for collecting food and make a big food banquets, hunger banquets for around the area from the school and the school. And then we start to make also a visit, a volunteer visit or community service for food bank. And the other students in other countries, they visit their food bank in their country. And then this is some activity before we start. Virtual activity, and I got it from I have a resource book from I Earn virtual activity or PPL projects. And also this is one of the Zoom meeting with the other school. And also at the end we share the Zoom meeting also with the other country with a big event in Egypt here. And also the other one, the other project with the with the other country in Europe, we use exchange letter with the other students, and we start with the 2 or 3 Zoom meeting, and then we start exchange letter by mail. And when they got their letters from the post office, they take a picture and they write it down, and we exchange the photo even after that. And then the other country, they got certificates they sent certificates for our students and so on. And also we have other program. Yes, it's like we call World Song projects also in America. And we have only one song in each country. They repeat the three lines with the same rhythm, but with their language. We make the 6 line, 3 line in Arabic and 3 line in English, and they make a big map. And when you click on map, you find the country and they repeat the song. This is called World Song Project between Egypt and America and in Japan. I want to share it with you. I like to share each project, so I sure, but I'm gonna share a mini link. I'm gonna prepare a different link, and I'm gonna share it next Zoom meeting on the chat box. You can check it if you want. And also, we have exchange art project. It's the same. We send our the student art drawing. We send it to other school, and they make student fair in their school, and we make art fair for other school from the school which we exchange. And also this is a kind of exchange. Yani, this year also we start talking aloud about this project, but before that it's like working aligned, working behind the school, or working to support it. But now this year we start talking aloud about this project and explaining and that. And I got last week I got global PayPal ambassadors, like 5 years experience working with the global PayPal projects. So, I'm sorry, talking a lot.
No, it's fine, Salwa. You're excited.
I'm gonna share it next time with different article about this project. I'm gonna share it with you. Different experience with the Japan. We use also the same song, and we record it in different country. The same dance. And this art exchange project, and also wallet song project, peace projects, and Dreamline projects also.
Wonderful.
This is different. Yeah, we have a long go with this. But I think this is, we can use that, we can align with your curriculum. It's easy, it's not hard.
You're able to connect it with what you're learning and what you're teaching. So we want to get more of your resources, and thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Because it's really great. So I think that if people have ideas that they think that are really helpful, they can put it in the chat box. But Louise, what is our next step and what we want to build with our teacher portfolios? Because she said it well.
Sure. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again here. One more. Okay, so I guess before we kind of wrap things up, we want you to think about how can you translate or use what you have been doing this week in your Padlet or your own teacher portfolio. Perhaps that means researching resources that can host these platforms. I know Judi presented us with a great option today. It does seem like there's a paywall with it eventually, so that's something to keep in mind. Betsy showed us Parlay Ideas, which seems to have certain levels of subscription but if you want to start researching free versions, and I know that Armin and I are going to follow up and look for the lowest cost, but yet most effective option for our teacher participants, and hopefully get it for free. If you also want to start writing down ideas for your Padlet that you can do in the future, and then sharing those links with us in our Facebook group, so other teachers with us can go ahead and connect with you, and you can perhaps make a direct connection. Also, you'll see that we are posting videos during the week on Mindful Monday and Tech Tuesday, Wellness Wednesday, and Thought Provoking Thursday to kind of give everyone content to use in their classes. I've been using Armin's Mindful Monday and Wellness Wednesday videos in my own classes as warm-ups. So if you want to produce any of those, feel free to do those, and we would love to upload them and host them and share them with people to use. I know we're going to do a cool down, and I also want us all to take a moment to thank Judi Freeman for joining us today. She has kindly agreed to stay after for questions, but I just want to be mindful of the fact that it's all different times of the day for people. So as kind of our closing remarks before we do a cool down followed by additional questions for Judi for those interested, please don't forget to take attendance. You can use this QR code or the link in the chat. For our next session, we're going to meet on Tuesday, April 13th at 7 p.m. We will have different speakers that week. That day, this is kind of a unique week for us that we have so many available and willing speakers that next on Tuesday, we're going to host the founders of AM English, and they'll be talking about how you can use that platform. And Armin, are we ready to go into our cool down and then further questions for Judi?
Yeah.
Or
I
not
would
yet?
just say that whatever you're going to do this week, start planning in your teacher portfolio what kind of a simple exchange you want to do, inspired by Judi, Salwa, anyone in your group, right? Because we're all teachers, but we're all students. So maybe you heard something that you liked. How could you use the parlay idea or someone else's idea to do a simple exchange? If you can actually do it, that's great. If not, we understand. But we want to just start planning and creating more ideas that you can actually use in the future. So that's all I'm going to say. If you could add it to your portfolio, you could write what your objective is. You could write, you know, how long you want to do it, maybe which technology you want to use. We're not telling you what to do because that doesn't work. Someone tells you what to do, you get frustrated when it doesn't work. So we're asking you to find and create what would work for you and your students. Okay? Start from there. And then next, maybe we can connect you with someone in our community who has an idea that's similar. So just create something that you could use with your class and write about it, what your plan would be. And I think that's it, right, Louise?
Yeah, before we do our cool down, and we still have a lot of energy, I'm really into writing Post-it notes, and I've counted 11 Post-it notes that I wrote during Judi's presentation. It was so amazing. She inspired me about things that I hadn't ever thought of or known about, and really create a great discussion. So let's all go ahead and we can do a round of applause for an amazing presentation.
Thank you, Judi.
Thank you so much.
And contact Judi if you want to jump in on the exchange Judi's created, if that works for your age level. And you, right, Judi is ready and excited.
Armin, do you want to do a little bit of a cool down, and then if people have to go to bed or to work, they can go there.
Wherever
and I think Judi will stay on for additional questions.
I like that. I like what Monica's doing. Raise your hands up and move them to the right. Breathe out, forget about whatever is bothering you or whatever makes you happy, because all of it'll come and go. And then go to the other side. Breathe in and out. And you can bring them forward. And then back. So we're respecting the time. We're gonna do just learn how to say bye in Portuguese, because why not? And then we're gonna let anyone who wants to stay to ask a question to
Ciao.
Judi. But how do we say bye in Portuguese?
Ciao. Because
Ciao.
we, yeah, just like Italian people. Because
Good.
of we had Italian immigration. That's why we borrowed this word from it.
The
Italian.
only problem is that ciao in Italian is hi.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
That's
And
good.
in Vietnam, we also like ciao. In Vietnam, it's ciao.
Ciao. In Egypt, we say ma salama.
Ma salama.
Ma salama.
Ma salama.
در فارسی میگیم خدا حافظ.
And in Poland, we say cześć.
In the Philippines, we say paalam.
Paalam.
Okay. In Taiwan, we say 再见. 再见.
再见。
再见。
In Senegal,
Okay.
in my mother tongue,
Kambli?
in my mother tongue, the Wolof language, we
Kambli?
say babenen yon.
Allah
Babenen yon.
Hafiz. Masalam.
Allah Hafiz.
Sampai jumpa from Indonesia. Sampai jumpa.
Sampai jumpa. Dadah.
Sampai jumpa.
Mauritius, we say au revoir. From Mauritius, we say au revoir.
Goodbye.
Stay safe,
Babenen
people.
yon.
Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We'll miss you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Anyone who's got a question for Judi, she's here. Otherwise, we see you next Tuesday or Saturday. Okay. Bye-bye.